Okay, so when it comes to items and magical items in D&D, obviously we have the Identify spell, which people can use on a regular basis to determine anything they want to know about a magical item. Do we as DMs like this, or do we sometimes hate it because we like the mystery of our magical items? What are your feelings?
So Megan clearly wasn't on the crafting episode that hasn't been released at the time of recording. I popped off.
You popped off?
Oh, yeah.
No way!
Oh, yeah. I don't like the Identify spell the way it works.
You get so many details about the magical item, especially like when it comes to like how many charges it has, like what type of magic it, like all those.
It takes all the mystery out. I think you should be able to upcast it. You want to know what it does or what it's called? Level 1 spell slot, you get what it's called. Mm-hmm. Level 3, you get what it does at the surface level, like initial effect. Level 5, you get to know its history. Level 7, who made it. Level 9, is there a curse on it?
Also, take it away. Even just taking it away from being a ritual,
yeah,
and just making it. If you have to spend spell slots to do this, my guy, we can't just sit here for 3 hours and do this. You have to spend spell slots for it. Would make it at least a little bit more. Okay, well, I only want to identify like the big giant sword. I'll leave the 700 other items.
No, you know what? Or make it an hour long to cast standard. So you want to make it a ritual? 2 hours. Can't do it in a short rest. And you certainly are going to be burning up your long rest with it, right? You're not going to get enough sleep. Levels of exhaustion if you need to identify 2 items.
Yeah.
Right? This is how I would fix it. I let it run essentially as me saying, yeah, this is what it does. But if I hand out something that needs to be identified, I tend to do it early in the adventuring day before the rests go in, so you guys often forget that it's there. And then you turn around and go, oh yeah, are we going to ever identify that? And I'm like, gotta wait for a short rest. Guys.
You gotta wait.
Yeah, are we going to?
But like, let's be fair, the only people at our table that ever have identify as a spell is Dan and Charlie.
Yeah.
The rest of us don't give a shit. I'm like, yeah, I'll use the sword and see what happens.
Yeah. I'm all for it. I wish that I could as a DM, because I wouldn't be shitty about it.
No.
I wouldn't be adversarial. I just want you to be surprised. I want that sense of wonder.
Surprised and delighted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think is a good part. Or surprised and surprised.
It's buzzing in my hand. What do I do?
The buzzing.
That was a callback to last episode.
Oh.
Depends on the mode.
But does anybody really like the other modes?
No. This is a long sentence. Like,
that's for another episode.
Yeah.
I will drink this beer.
Yeah.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome back to an It's a Mimic episode, where you never know what you're going to get. Today, we're continuing our discussion on Dungeon Master tips in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm Adam, and with me today are Megan and Casey, for some fucking reason. And this episode is called Magic Items. More things to make more magic things more magical.
All right, in this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, we're going to cover part 2 of our discussion on magical items and how to integrate them into your games.
Before we get into magic items from the DMG, I want to ask, how many magic items do you think is appropriate for a player character to have by the end of the campaign?
Dice. I stole the black one.
You bitch. I'll take that. Oh, we're at 20!
I am always 1 point behind you.
You know what, Casey? That's our life, and that's okay.
19.
Megan.
How many magical items do I feel a character should have at the end of a campaign? I think that it varies, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, uncommon and common ones, you can have any amount in my mind, because you can have them starting from level 1. So I understand that rules is written. We went over this in our last episode. You only get 1 per whatever tier you go through. Right?
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
I feel like you can have any number of uncommon items. Like, you can have a fucking orb that glows and is warm. Like, who cares? Yeah. It's not going to be game breaking that you have that.
The difference between 2 and 4 bags of holding is not going to fucking matter.
And the fact that you have, like, when you look at just potions, those are technically characterized as magical items. And, like, so different types of potions that help with strength or dexterity or all those pieces, I feel like you can have a few of those in your kit, because when you're at level 20, they're not going to overpower anything.
Depends on the potion. If you're going to have a potion of greater restoration or a potion of polymorph.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But a potion of giant strength or something, for example.
Depends on the giant, because some of those go up to like strength of 29 and shit, right?
Yeah, but like who's really going to be using that at that point?
Well, and according to your rules...
Says the only fucking person at my table that's ever used a potion of giant strength.
You're correct. I do that all the time.
So...
But it was a heal giant strength that was only like level 21, which was not that big of a jump for me. And like characters that are going to start using that when you're at level 20 at the end game are going to have strength of 23, 25 already.
Yeah.
So even if you do like a frost giant like strength potion, you're still going to maybe go by like what, 1?
And everyone that's sitting here screaming, saying you can't go above 20. Yes, you fucking can. There's rules all over the place that lets you do that.
Read the book. Pretend like you live here.
Casey, what were you going to say?
Megan's spicy today.
We're talking about some spicy things, okay?
I was just going to say, yes, and those more powerful things that will be, like, have a 1 charge or a 1 use only. Mm-hmm. And so then those will dissipate. You won't have a half a dozen of those sitting when you're at the end of your campaign. You're hopefully going to use some of them. And so you might have 1. And I think it's appropriate for each character to have, by the end of the campaign, if you're in the high teens, like levels, either high-powered armor or a high-powered weapon. That's like, multiple pluses or something. Something that has finesse. Something that has more excitement. But you won't have, like, super fancy fucking powerful armor, a super fancy cloak that does a whole bunch of things, plus a super fancy, like, weapon or 2 weapons. That doesn't seem appropriate to me. Make it work.
It honestly depends on what level you are. If your campaign ends at level 13, that's going to dictate how many powerful items you have and how powerful they are. Right?
Yeah, true.
So, and a lot of the published materials, they go to level 13 or 11 to 14 seems to be where we're ending, right? Also, if you're going to be at level 20 for a long fucking time, and we are going to talk about this in a few episodes from now, is you're going to get past epic boons, like above level 20, where you just keep advancing the story and killing the monsters and gaining experience, but there's no level 21 that doesn't exist. So you get epic boons, you get bigger things, you get more powerful in other ways. Magic items is one of those ways. If you are playing 20th level campaign for 7 months of gameplay, then where you're meeting every week, you will have 3 fucking magic items that are just super fucking powerful. Like, I see no problem with that.
But then do you think it, like, once it gets to that, you have to create that big final battle and end it? Because where do you go from then if they have, like, all powerful, all of the magical things? You
either end the incoming apocalypse, or you ascend to godhood, or you are murdered in your sleep. It's one of those 3 things.
Yeah. You
go out in a blaze of glory. Then not actually murdered in your sleep, but like you go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
Right. You save the capital city from the volcano somehow. Right. If I'm going to give you these big magic items that are super good, use them. You need to be able to feel, and every one of them has to be used. It should be one of these instances where the 4 of you are standing there against the horde of oncoming demons. You have all these magical items. You've got all these single-use items. This is the day to use them.
Yeah.
We'll see how many of you are left standing at the end.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Okay. Well, before we end up falling down a rabbit hole here, let's jump into an info break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on Dungeon Master Tips in 5th edition. For all of those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. If you would like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join our Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you would like to pay for some ad space on It's a Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
This week on the It's a Mimic channels, we're dropping 4 episodes. Yesterday we released the first Platinum Great Worm episode to have more hosts than just me. Dave joined Scott and I to talk all things Eberron and why they love it, so go back and check it out if you haven't already. On Thursday, patrons of Silver Adult Tier and above will be able to join Casey, Charlie, and I as we talk about the final chapters of the Bible I wrote for my homebrew Pantheon, and how to make text like these accessible to a D&D party. And then on Friday, we're actually releasing the sequel to this episode, where the conversation on magic items wraps up on the topics of cursed items, sentient items, and artifacts. But for now, let's get back to the episode. So when it comes to magic items, there are all these rules in the DMG, but I feel like there are really 4 things that they absolutely fucking miss. And it is the common sense that an experienced dungeon master already has. And one of those things is balancing the economy. So when it comes to the economy in Dungeons & Dragons, we hand out a lot of copper pieces at low levels and a lot of gold pieces at middle levels. No one plays with Electrum, and we just kind of skip over silver as quickly as possible. So you're dealing with many, many, many gold pieces pretty quickly, and the first hoard you get, even if it's a wormling, you guys are going to get rich.
Yeah.
There's nothing to spend the money on because nobody's tracking your day-to-day life, what your upkeep is, right? Oh, I want to live a fancy life? I can't afford a fancy life. I'm going to live a poor life for a while.
Sure.
Your players don't give a shit. We're moving on, right? Does it matter to you if you're sleeping on a California king-size bed in the tavern or on a double? They don't care.
It depends. How much of my harem showed up for the ride?
Yeah. How many bedmates will it have?
70%.
Yeah, either or is fine.
Yeah. So when we look at the economy with magic items, the magic items are just increasingly more cost prohibitive. And I feel like that's where you should be spending your money. But if you're buying your magic items, that feels like you haven't earned it. And it doesn't feel nearly as good as looting the, lieutenant of the big bad evil guy's body to get this. So I really do feel like when it comes to magic items in the economy, you can't sell them. Because if you do sell them, and I mean, we've talked about buying and selling magic items on the crafting episodes. Mm-hmm. When it comes to selling them, it's got to feel unique. It's a plot hook. It's a big deal. You can't just say, oh, this +4 magic, whatever. I'm going to take this into the general store and get rid of it. They're going to sit there and go, we literally do not have this much money in all of the village.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I can pay you in 1 month of grain, but we will die.
Would you like my eldest daughter? This is what we're dealing with here.
Oh, a marriage. Great.
Yeah.
No.
So when it comes to the economy, we can pretty much throw it out the window, even though there's all these rules about, well, if it's this rarity, it costs roughly between this and this. But you also notice they don't hammer down a specific cost for it. And it's because they don't want you worried about gold. That's not what this is. That's what 3.5 was. That's what original D&D was get your loot, get your magic items, and power up. That's not what this is. This is about role-playing and also cutting heads off of things.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the bigger thing that we need to look at is the economy of balance. Does everybody have the appropriate scope of variety of what they can do when they get out of town, right? Because there are some players that will sit back. Dave doesn't need the same scope that Dan does when we do town time. Dan wants to go talk to everybody. Dave is content to literally sit in the bar and drink.
I love that now I'm going to always reference Dan enjoying just being in a town as town time. It's like talking to a child, be like, hey, like, it's time for town time. Like, are you...
Oh, no. You don't know how funny that actually was. We're going to back up a second. I'm going to tell you a little history of the It's a Mimic podcast.
Oh, no.
Because originally it was called Town Time.
Oh, no.
And we recorded 6 episodes of Town Time. And we were going to have have one of us be a character that is actually telling stories about, I bumped into a fighter. Did you know he can do these things? I bumped into an elf. Did you know he can do these things? Right? And that was going to be the whole premise. It was so cheesy and so bad.
I hate it.
Oh, so we had tavern noises in the background and the whole thing.
I never would have done it. You would have said, hey, Megan, would you like to record this podcast episode? You'd be like, you know what, guys? I'm not about town time.
You can portray a gnome for the next 90 minutes.
Great.
Yeah, it was the idea about like blending the narrative storylines as with the idea of actually like giving information.
I like where you're going with it. Not a fan of it.
No, I was not a fan of it. It was great on paper.
Yeah. And
the moment we hit record, I went, this feels gross and my skin is crawling.
I hate everything about this.
I don't see this being
feels
sustainable.
This feels like grade 8 drama class. Like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. And I sat there and I said, I'm going to give this 6 episodes, and if it feels bad, we're going to cut it. So we gave it 6 episodes. It was bad, and we cut it.
Fair enough.
So when you say, no, we're going to call that Town Time for Dan, he's going to cringe hard.
He's going to hurt inside.
Yeah.
Like we tried. It didn't work.
I'm so sorry.
But when it comes to items for balance, it's really going to be focused on combat mostly, and then not necessarily exploration or role-playing, but what is the variety of options given to the players? Because spellcasters have 1,000 things they can do. Marshals have, well, I'm in a dungeon, so I guess I'm going to sneak. I'll pull out a lantern. I've got 50 feet of rope. Right, and that's what they get. So you're relying on magic items to breathe more life into their characters. But if you end up imbalancing it where one person has a lot of shit to do and another person has very little to do, especially in combat, one person's doing more damage than the other or hitting more often or just able to cast higher level spells than the guy beside them, it doesn't feel good. So this is what we need to focus on as DMs when we're handing out magic items. I tend to, as we spoke at length about last episode, give single-use items. Mm-hmm. They're the best way around it, right? So you can still get all of your power, but you don't have to worry about imbalancing it because everybody's going to get a single-use item, and when they use it, it's gone. Yeah. It's the same thing as an inspiration die, right? It feels good to have it, but it doesn't make everyone else around the table go, I wish I had one.
Yeah, it's kind of like so I was able to pop this off for the good of the group.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not necessarily having that, like, economic balance between the players, because you're not overpowered by having a singular potion.
Yeah.
But it's going to pop off when it's needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
And with single-use items, of course, you can hand them to other people to get it to go. Like, oh, hey, you've got the movement speed, but I've got this pearl of power. You take this and go use it over there, right?
Yeah,
so.
We've done that in our campaigns quite a bit.
Yeah.
We've traded items for what's going to work with people to be like, hey, like, I don't need this. Like, did you want it? And, like, there have been magical items before. I think I felt bad at once or twice in our campaign with Adam where we would have a magical item appear and we would identify it and none of us would want or need it. And we're like, okay, I'll carry it in my inventory.
But I love handing out those items because there's usually a clue or it's a key to something later or
it'll come up later down the line. But then we have to remember who had that item that we we're gonna discard. Like,
and the only info we have is Charlie's like, I crossed it out.
So I don't know who has it now. In case he'll be like, I might have it. Looking back on my notes from 3 weeks ago, it might be a thing that I have.
Yeah, and then you get to judge hard on who took the worst notes. It's like, oh my god, what the fuck? And then I look at my notes, it's like, I haven't made a note in 7 months.
How are they gonna know? They're never gonna know. Adam's dying slowly inside.
No, I'm absolutely fine because every time you guys forget a plot point, it means that I can have someone return from your past. Right?
You're not wrong.
And I do that semi-frequently where you guys are like, oh yeah, fuck, what was this guy's deal? Right?
Yeah. It happens.
We fucked up.
It happens to Roman every once in our campaign where he'll be like, is this person alive or dead? And we'll be like, none of us can prove either or. And he's like, all right, he's alive. And like, we'll move on, right? Like...
If he was dead, he was just sick.
He was just like not having a good day.
Yeah. If single-use items are not impressive enough, because sometimes they're not, you can rely on the middle ground, which is charges or chances. Charges are easily laid out. They're very clearly described in the DMG. You get a certain number of uses before it needs to be recharged, or it goes poof, you can't use it anymore. Chances, though, there are some items that give you a chance to do a thing. Specifically scrolls that are higher level than what you can cast, right? Where you have to now roll a die to see if it works. Or you have to roll percentile dice to see if this actually gets cast.
I hate rolling percentile dice. There's too many options.
There's only 100.
It's too many.
That's too many options.
Too much cannot work.
And if I can be honest, percentile dice are garbage nonsense because the only one of those two D10s actually matters. If you have a 25% chance, only the tens column, 3 to 0, that matters. Those are the only things that matter. No matter what the other die says, it doesn't matter, right? So
you're so right.
Yeah, so it's actually not nearly as scary as you think, unless you roll the actual, like, 25%, I rolled a 2, and a what? Oh, fuck. And now it's still a 50-50 chance, right?
You're not wrong.
So I don't think that's scary until you own an actual D100, and I've seen them online, and I want one so badly. But my problem is, all the sides are so smooth and the corners are smooth, that fucker rolls for days. Mm-hmm. You roll a D100 and everybody goes for coffee break, comes back.
And I still wouldn't know what number it is, because I'd be like, is this where it's flat?
Like, is it cocked? Let's just, like, pat it.
You got to sprinkle water on top and see where the droplet lands.
Yeah, and does it roll? Yeah.
So, but chances are a great way to do this as well. And even if it's a Wand of Magic Missile, you have a 33% chance of actually casting this on an enemy, a 33% chance of casting it on an ally, and a 33% chance of this not working.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So roll a d6. Let's see what we landed on.
Yeah.
Right? Adding that level of random, that level of chance to a magic item adds a level of gambling when the players are going to use it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, the chance is either it works or it doesn't. And I give it on pretty low stakes things like disguise self. Will it work or will it not? You don't tend to need that in a life or death situation right now in this moment.
Yeah.
Right? It's just going to be better than if I have a disguise kit.
Yeah.
So the other thing, and they do talk about this, but I feel like it's not really focused on enough, is spell scrolls and potions. And a decision that I make as a dungeon master every time is this a scroll or a potion? I want them to have access to this spell. Polymorph is a potion. It just doesn't feel good as a scroll.
No, I agree.
Right? Magic Missile is a scroll. That just doesn't feel good as a potion.
Yeah.
Can't explain it, but yeah, that checks out.
Right? So
it's the poison for Cusco. Cusco's poison. The poison made specifically for Cusco.
So when you sit down to come up with these single-use items and you're handing out, what feels right?
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of the time, if it does damage, it's a scroll. If it's passive, it's a potion. And that's how I see it. If you get a buff or a debuff or actually debuffs tend to be like, what's a good example? If you're going to cut someone's speed in half, that can be a potion. That feels good, but it also feels good as a scroll to cast it on that guy over there in the middle of combat. And so you have to think as well, is this something somebody wants to drink or something that an ally is going to hold on to and say, we're going to use this for our benefit later, or is it something I'm going to fuck this guy up with, right? So who's the target? Potions can't be used for multiple targets, so that tends to be scrolls. And eventually, when it starts to get complicated, I'm trying to come up with a good example, like Ice Storm. That's a wand.
Yeah, it's a charge on a wand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's neither a scroll. It could be a scroll, but it feels like a wand.
Yeah.
Right. But Wish is a scroll. It's not a wand. The wand feels weird for Wish.
Yeah.
So stop and think about your single-use items, and not just what you're handing out, but kind of the medium that you're handing it out in as well.
Yeah.
So let's grab dice. I have questions.
Oh my god. 1.
11 for me.
Well, I got a 5. All right, Megan, you're first.
How do I feel about your long speech that you just made? I'm gonna get beat.
We're on that number of drinks.
Yeah. Nobody can see just the deadpan. Megan.
The spice tonight.
Besides healing potions, any single-use item that you can remember really impacting a campaign?
Single-use items? Ooh.
I can list like 8 off the top of my head from like recently.
Oh my god.
But I'm putting you guys on the spot now, and so.
Oh lord, I can't even think of item like.
I can't help because I'm next.
I mean, we use potions on a regular basis, just like, and it's always us making someone else chug a potion. It's not. We never use it for ourselves. I find. But
you guys, okay, so way back in the sewers when you guys were fighting gnolls, you all got backed into a fucking corner, but Dan missed that session.
Yeah.
And he showed up, he'd done midweek and gotten a scroll of meteor
swarm.
Swarm.
Yeah. And destroyed the mob that was going to murder us.
Destroyed the sewers and the city block above it.
Yeah.
To rescue you guys. That
Yeah.
was a one-off. You guys were level 12, and I gave them a level, I forget if it's 8 or 9. I think it's 9.
Yeah.
9th level spell.
Yeah.
And that was epic. That was fucking huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that came to mind for me, I'm skipping. I'm
Yeah.
Go
weighing
for
in.
it. Throw down.
Well, was because in your worlds, like banishment and all of those cause not what you hopefully want usually.
Yeah, you tend to get spheres of annihilation or portals to nowhere. So.
Yeah.
So, like, what Charlie used on Lolth.
That's what I was thinking about.
What, that was a scroll? Or was,
Yeah, no, that was a scroll. You
That
guys
was a
were
scroll.
level 5 and fighting Lolth.
Yes.
Yeah. And, Hail Mary, let's try and banish Lolth when banishment doesn't work the way we thought.
Oh yeah, because I even used it on myself. My character used a one use item to bamf herself
Yeah.
out because she was going to get murdered.
Yours was a little stone that you would throw at your feet, and the nearest person would get displaced from time for a certain amount of days.
Yeah. So I used that on myself to disappear for a
So
few
we went
days.
into whole wax of wormholes and
Yeah.
voids and spaces.
That's fair.
Because it connected to an open portal and
Yeah.
then dragged you guys into the realm between realms.
Yeah.
So, like, I really, really like these big Hail Mary opportunities that single-use items bring to the table.
And that is also how we had a 60% TPK, was because Dan's character used also
A Hail Mary.
A Hail Mary banishment. Wasn't it banishment?
It was, yeah.
And it cleaved and killed Fang.
Yeah, killed Charlie's character, and it fucked Dan up, too. It took him a year to recover because he was all Thanos'd by it.
Yeah, and it was because two other player characters, mine and Dave's, had just also died.
And Megan's NPC love interest.
Yes.
And
always my
Yes.
love interest must die.
Tobalt. And so
R.I.P.
yeah,
Tobalt.
it was absolutely, what the fuck do I have in my list? We're trying it.
How do we do
And
this?
it did not pay off for Dan
Never
to
does.
do that.
No,
Yeah.
but to be fair, Charlie was on death saves, and Charlie looked at Dan and said, just fucking do it.
Yeah, he was done
And so
with
his
it.
unconscious body gets sucked into the void.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So my next question is,
Throw it down.
how do you feel about the idea of getting a magic item that you only have a chance to get it to work?
I don't hate it.
Considering we do roll dice, and it is all about chance.
Everything in D&D is about chance. There are so many things that we can do as players and DMs to boost those chances, like whether you have bardic inspiration from someone on your team, whether or not you have luck as a feat, whether or not the DM just kind of gives you a boon
Assistance.
saying, roll with advantage for having assistance from somebody. There's so many different things you can do to make and like push your roll forward. So it doesn't necessarily bother me. Does it feel bad when it doesn't pop off? Absolutely feels bad. But sometimes if it doesn't pop off in such a negative way, like let's say you rolled a 1, I feel like sometimes that can be theatrically more entertaining
Yeah.
sometimes than when you're successful. So I'm okay with it. Sometimes like that mid-range, you just rolled a 12 instead of a 15 will bother me.
That one hurts more than the 2.
Yeah, but if I rolled a 2 and I ultimately failed, you can fail forward, right?
Yeah.
You can make something out of that experience and make it feel a little bit more wholesome than just, oh, well, I rolled a 12 instead of a 15, moving on, right? But I think that comes down to the DM's responsibility of making that theatrically entertaining. Because if you're going to one time use this huge, like, majestical item and all of a sudden you just whiff it, like, it's one thing to laugh at it and move on. It's another thing to have a serious consequence that occurs because.
It's like in the D&D movie when the sorcerer puts on the helmet and just keeps getting knocked back, 6 feet.
Yeah.
Right? Funny.
Hilarious.
It's not working for him. It's funny.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that in the books, right? Like, we don't have that. So I often add shit of, like, there's a chance, there's a downside.
Yeah.
And that's where we get some of our comedy from. But I really, really like adding items that have a chance to them. However, it's mostly just a chance to either succeed or fail. I feel like when the item, specifically a magic item, gets identified, you should let them know. If you fuck up, this is what will happen.
You'll lose an arm.
Right. You have to be 100% clear about it as a DM because it's going to piss off some players.
For sure. Yeah.
And we're at a table where we all know each other. We're all friends. We meet regularly for long sessions. We're all on the same page. You're online. You're meeting these people for the first time, or you've known them for a couple of times. You're still kind of iffy on it. And this is a session where you fuck up big and the DM says, all right, it's a comedy moment. Look at this shit. You may just feel bad.
Yeah.
So...
And no one as a DM likes to feel bad for making your players feel bad. Like,
I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, like, to a degree. But, like, when it's something as small as that, sometimes that can sit in your brain as, like, the anxiety moment you'll think about at 3 a.m. Being like, no, I could have done that better. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
That thing that wakes you up in the middle
like,
of the night. It's like, oh, god damn it.
Yeah. Should have just let it happen.
I kind of feel like having things that are slightly out of reach, where it's like, you can certainly try that, but clearly defining this is the chances. It kind of can be a little bit humbling in, dude, you're level 4, you know? And just put people back in their place a little bit about the magic and the potential consequences of that.
Yep.
And it's like, if you want to try it, have at her. Like, I've given you the information and you see what happens.
Yeah.
And then, hopefully, if those characters get to the level where that is a spell they can just take or whatever, and it's like, then, I don't know, there's kind of that, like, evolution as well. So you're letting them get insight on what's to come. It's like, if you try it now, you're going to fuck things up potentially, and you're going to find out what goes wrong. But it gives that little bit of like, damn, I can't wait till this is just like a spell I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my last question is, there are a lot of one-shots. There's a lot of, like, playing at Gen Con and tournaments and stuff. There's a lot of online play where you're playing with strangers. Would you as a dungeon master or as a player treat your single-use items or your scrolls or potions differently when you don't have to hoard them, or you don't have a friend or an ally or somebody that you really know well? You're like, I'm just going to give this to you. I don't particularly need this. I'll hand it to you. Do you treat it differently, or do you just go as is and hope everybody else figures it out?
I think that if it's an item that you have given your players that's meant and built to drive a story forward in a very particular time frame, I would be like, okay, you as a player know that this is going to work in this instance. I will give you advantage. Like, you would give them those kinds of boons to, like, again, give them a win, right?
Yeah.
If I'm giving them an item specifically because it's supposed to do something for me as a DM later on, I might treat it slightly different, but not in a known way to be like, oh yeah, it just works. They still have to work for it. Give them advantage, or
give them a side quest where they need to find the person to make sure it goes off appropriately.
Yeah, it teaches them how to use it, right?
Yeah.
Like, or they go to sleep at night and they happen to have a dream about an elder or something like that that teaches them how to use the item they just received, right? Make it a storyline thing that makes it a little bit more engaging, but then makes it easier to use down the line so it actually has the effect you want it to have as a DM. Because there's nothing worse than doing a one-shot and giving them the big MacGuffin, and then when they go to use it, they roll a 1. Again, failure, sometimes failing forward is more entertaining, but if you want them to have the W, you can coax in that direction without being too obvious or too, I don't know, controlling. Because again, you want your players to tell the story. It's not you that's telling the story. But like, sometimes you just kind of need to guide them in the right direction, especially during a one-shot. It's different when you're doing a one-shot versus like a large, long, open sandbox campaign.
If I find the item in a one-shot, I'm using the item within the hour.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's when you don't defer to having your players roll and you look up and you give the item.
Yeah,
that is not the time
I know
to do that.
What item is in this drawer before. I'm not rolling randomly on tables.
No.
Right? So
yeah, you have to prepare very differently.
And I also would do that, and I have not DM'd a whole lot of games online, but I've done a couple. I would do it different online, even if it's an ongoing storyline, just because I don't know the vibes of this person. There's enough of a distance and a disconnect through a webcam, especially when I'm looking at 4 or 5 other people on the same screen at the same time. I might not be able to pick up on what they're wanting to do, how they want to proceed and move forward. So I'm going to plan these items geared for their character and not just random bullshit off a trinkets table. I may have some of that in there, but that's not going to be the main flavor of this moment, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
So let's jump into the actual magic items that they provide us inside the DMG. Now, there are magic tables A through I, which drives me nuts. They couldn't have had 10 magic tables. Fuck. Because they're all different lengths and shit anyways. And they're weird lengths, too, right? Like, table E has, 8 fucking things on it? Get fucked. Anyway.
Tell us how you really feel.
I think a lot of emotion coming from you today.
The Dungeon Master's Guide has such good shit in it, but it's all the wrong shit in the wrong ways, and it's not enough of it.
Fair.
Anyways, that's how I really feel. Magic items. There are a list of really good ones, and so what we've done is we've selected ones to talk about. Some of the big ones and just some of the ones that we think are interesting and
Neato.
fun. Yeah. So let's roll dice to see what order we're going in.
Yeah.
And then we will go table by table through our choice off that table.
Okay.
Oh my god.
I rolled a 19.
What the fuck?
You got
I'm
a
actually not sad that I'm going last because that's the best. But still, 2 ones in a row. What the hell?
So the big twist is, once we're done describing it, we're going to come up with our own flavor, our own use, something for it. So
love it. So we're starting with table A, yeah?
Table A, Megan.
Fair enough. So from table A, I picked the Potion of Climbing. So this one is a common item, which when consumed gives you a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. So, as well as advantage on strength, which is athletic checks that might be used while you are climbing. The neat thing about this is that the liquid itself is visually in 3 different layers. 1 brown, 1 silver, and 1 gray. And when you move it around and shake it, it never mixes. It just looks like sand or stone, which again is a really cool descriptor to have as a DM. So for me, this item screams that the acolytes that are following a caved monstrosity or a dragon of some sort would carry this on their person so they can make sure they can make it back home safely.
Kobolds and dragons.
100%. So if you are traversing into a dragon's territory, this would be on the hands of any kobold you kill or any orc you come across or anything that's going to be living within these mountainous ranges. You're going to have one of these potions, and it's going to be because it's a gift from the dragon to keep its acolytes and followers safe.
You know who else would have this? And only because I'm speaking to you two right now? Cloud giants.
100%. Yeah.
Because you got to go up the beanstalk, right?
Every time. Yeah.
I'm going to ask this with every potion we talk about. What's it taste like?
Oh, it tastes like sand.
Is it gritty?
Like gritty, and it's got like a texture to it. And I feel like it would just taste like, this is going to sound awful to everybody in this shit, but I feel like there's going to be some kid out there that can identify with this. It tastes like when you eat drywall.
I have crumbled the drywall between my fingers, and that just doesn't sound appealing. And yet, you get this magical thing. Like, I want the player to do it anyway, but the character to go, all right, I'll do it. So, the one that I chose off Magic Table A was the Bag of Holding. Because,
classic.
Of course,
It's so great.
However, everybody I think knows what it is, but nobody knows what it is because we don't read it. We just
use it.
use it. So from the outside, this is 2 feet in diameter and 4 feet deep. So this is not a pouch that hangs off your belt. This is a fucking burlap sack. Inside is 64 cubic feet. That's big. Mm-hmm. That's big. It always weighs 15 pounds, and it can hold up to 500 pounds. So no matter what you have in it, it's always 15 pounds. Which is why I say burlap. You ever carried fucking wet burlap?
Heavy as fuck.
Heavy as fuck. So there's a total of 10 minutes of breathable air in there. So if you put someone or someone's in there, they're going to start suffocating quickly, especially if they're sharing the oxygen. So watch the timer, because they're in an extra-dimensional space, and they can't get out without you.
Yeah.
It takes an action to retrieve an item, or you can just turn it inside out and dump everything on the ground. If you overload, pierce, tear, or destroy the bag, its contents randomly spread across the astral plane.
Yeah.
And if you put it in another extra-dimensional space, both spaces are destroyed, and a gate to the astral plane appears. Anyone within 10 feet of this happening gets immediately transported to a random place on the astral plane, and then the gate closes forever.
Holy fuck.
This is the beginning. This is the beginning of a campaign.
This is the opening of a campaign here, guys.
All of the wizards that protect the kingdom got sucked into the astral plane, and you poor schlubs.
Because some asshole ripped open a bag of holding.
Someone fucked up.
Now, we've got a homebrew rule in our campaign, which is nobody knows what's in a bag of holding except the person that is, or no one can know except the person that put an item in there.
Yeah.
Even identified doesn't tell you what's in there. And you cannot retrieve an item unless you know what it is. So you can sit there with a bag of holding that somebody else owned and went, potion of healing, reach in, and you might come out empty. Because there was not one in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there could be some amazing, powerful item, but if you don't know it, when you inherited the bag, you will never get it.
Yeah.
And it's also dangerous because you don't know how full it is. And if it gets overloaded, it all goes away.
Yeah. I did not know that was a homebrew thing. I thought that was just a
Oh,
bag
no.
of holding thing.
I am so fucking tired of bags of holding in my D&D that I don't hand it out often. And I usually hand it out once in any campaign. There's one that we have, use it wisely. Because I want items to be able to be stolen or to feel special or secure. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up with a fucking artificer that popped up with I'm going to make a bag of holding too. So now we have fucking 2 of them. Thanks,
You're
Casey.
welcome.
Yeah. Well, I like your solve too of doing you would give us like little pouches.
Yeah.
And you couldn't fit items in it that were bigger than like the mouth of the bag.
Yeah.
So if you had like a little pouch of holding, you can put your coins in there. You can put your little daggers in there.
You can put a 10-foot long pole in it.
Yes.
Because it'll fit through, but you can't put a ladder in it.
You can't put a ladder or, a dead body in there. You know, like,
well, if you cut it up right.
Yeah, well, that's true. Cookie
Appendages.
size. Yeah.
You guys ran around for quite a while in the last campaign with the tiger corpse.
We did.
That was just getting blood on everything in there.
It's not great.
Oh,
not a
yikes.
great choice for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had found a drift globe. So this is a small sphere of thick glass weighing 1 pound. If you are within 60 feet of it, you can speak the command word and cause it to emanate the light spell or the daylight spell. But once used, the daylight effect can't be used again till the next dawn. So if you're going to beef it up and make it do daylight, you get to do that once per dawn. But light, it works basically as a lantern.
Sure.
Fair enough.
You can speak another command word to make the globe rise into the air up to 5 feet, and it will hover this way until you or another creature grabs it. And if you move more than 60 feet away from it, the hovering globe will follow you until it is within 60 feet again. It's kind of like that. Oh, we're out of range. Oh, we're back in range.
Here we are. Oh, no. Yeah.
Love it.
And it will also take the shortest route to get within that 60-foot range. So if it's prevented from moving, the globe will sink, then back down to the ground, becoming inactive, and the light will go out. It's like, and you're gone and I can't get to you. Okay, we're going into deactivate mode.
Fair enough.
So this is very much a kind of fun item to have in your possession. This actually came up in Candlekeep Mysteries because it can be an item that you discover in one of the adventures. And my family was playing in that adventure, and this is the classic DM thing. They found it, and I kind of shortly described, it's like, oh, you found a globe. It's thick, and it weighs 1 pound, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, cool. And then they moved on.
That's
like,
nice.
Awesome. And they will forget about it. They wrote it down in their list, and I'm like, you will probably never know what it actually does. And like, it's minor. It's just a fancy light.
Yeah.
But it's like,
but it's perfect for Candlekeep because we need light sources that aren't flame.
Yes.
In the library campaign.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why it's something to find in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I actually have come across this in a campaign that I had. But I don't know, it's also something that can just be anyone that's navigating the dark might have this on them, or been like, it's a wizardy type thing, a sorcery thing. It's a globe, you know.
Any creature that likes shiny things would have it in its hoard.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
And it might be like if you're going into somebody's mansion or somebody's realm, like a sorcerer or a wizard, they might just be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just like
illuminating
lighting
the walls of the tunnels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like if you want to investigate it or go up to it, you really just can grab it out of the air. And
this
it
is
just
mine
stops.
now.
And it's like, and you, the moment you touch it, nothing happens. You just grab it.
Thanks, Casey.
So kind of just a fun magic item that you can throw in kind of anywhere.
Very cute.
I like it. I like it also, it can only go 5 feet up. So like, it's never going to be really out of reach. Even gnomes will be able to climb up onto a chair and get it. Yeah.
Grab her.
Maybe it could be like disguised will-o-wisp style sometime in like a
that's
forest.
cool.
Yeah.
Like there's a wizard walking through a forest and you can see the light between the trees. And you're like, well, if I'm going to kill that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it's just a glass orb.
Those little lampposts you have.
Yeah, let's move on to Magic Table B, Megan.
Alright, so the first one that I chose for Table B is the Alchemy Jug, which is a wondrous item that is uncommon. It's basically a seemingly normal-looking jug that always weighs 12 pounds. As an action, you can call it a liquid for the jug to produce. There is a table in the DMG, obviously, that gives you a list of very specific liquids and how much liquid is produced. Then you can use another action to pour 2 gallons of it per minute. Each liquid on the table has a different, again, set amount that it can produce, and the jug cannot produce a new liquid or more of that liquid until the next dawn. So this is one of those ones that recharges at dawn, which we talked about in the last episode about whether we like that or not. I don't mind that for this one because then you can switch what liquids you're using and it's constantly usable, right?
Yeah.
I find this one to be used if you were a DM. This is an item I would give to my players if they are looking for a resource to traverse across a desert or need access to water in some way, shape, or form. Even if you're traveling across a swamp and don't have access to clean water, this is something that can be given.
I'm going to give this to the Alchemist Artificer as well.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense to...
100%. And like even if you don't even have one of those in your parties, I would give it to the wizard, or I'd even like just give it to the intelligence-based creature.
How many of the options are liquor?
A few.
A few.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Most are poisons, but you know.
Sure. You're going to get fucked up one way or the other.
Or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like you can kind of take liberties as well with a DM to be like, oh, well, if you want grape juice as a child, like, let's say this is the hand of a kid, like, I really want grape juice. Like, I'd be like, yeah, you can produce this amount of water, but it's grape juice just as like a flavorful thing, right? You can play with that for sure. But yeah, I thought that one was cute.
That's cool. I chose the immovable rod.
Of course you did.
The iron rod that has no listed dimension, so you can make your magic rod as long or as girthy as you'd like. I should also point out that it has a button on one end, and that button's going to activate its magical properties.
We like a good button.
How many modes does it have?
Yeah.
I went through all of yours without saying anything about jugs. And you fuck. So
no one likes the.
Who likes that?
No one.
I want to find on the internet.
the art in the book shows that it's kind of flat, and it has. This one is styled to have the top end of an iron horse on each end of the rod. So you can homebrew one of these things in any shape, style, ridges, or anything else you might want for your campaign.
For her pleasure.
Yeah.
When a creature presses the button, the rod immediately holds in place, even if it's defying gravity. It's just fixed in place in any sort of orientation that you may want to put it in. It stays where you put it. It can also hold up to 8,000 pounds, and you need a successful DC 30 strength check to move it 10 feet. You can deactivate its effects by pressing the button again or overloading the weight. And that's it.
Hear me out. Brothel. You can cut that completely.
But I won't.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
This is one of those things where, like, at initial glance, it's like, why? What the, like...
What would I use this for?
This is ridiculous. I don't know what the point. But then, like, there's so many things that this can save you from death or cause immense death.
When you're falling,
yes.
Hold this and hit the button.
Yeah. 100%.
Yes. And, like... stab this into a monster and press the button. And then it moves and it shreds out its side.
I saw this happen one time. This was years and years and years ago, previous edition, where a player was swallowed by a monster, activated the immovable rod, and then did enough damage to get thrown up. Mm-hmm. And the monster couldn't move.
Yeah, because if it did, it would be like
you would gut itself. Yeah. Right. So yeah. I really like the immovable rod. It's neat. It's also one of those things that players will abuse for, like, the door that's closing to, I have an immovable rod, right? Like, this is going to fix a lot of problems. So even though it's only on table B and it's early, like, it's minor, I hand this out later because I've got creative players.
Mm-hmm. This is also potentially, depending on how it's used, an item that you're gonna force your player to leave it behind. Because if it saves your party's ass from whatever, you may not be able to remove it from where it is, and you leave it, and you have to walk away and just let it go.
So not a permanent item, but like something that's going to help you through a dungeon. Yeah. Right?
And so that's a good thing to keep in mind if you find your players are abusing it. And it's like, I'm fucking so sick of this.
Adam's never done that before with our magical items. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like, let's now arrange for it to never, it's like, you cannot move it, because if you do, everyone dies. It's like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I try this. It's like, no, it doesn't work. It's like, fine, Adam, I get it.
That's cool. I'll take that one.
Okay, I chose Dust of Disappearance. So this is a small packet of powder resembling fine sand, and it's one use only. You'll like this, Adam.
Yep. Damn, that sand is fine.
Fine sand. You can use your action to throw the dust in the air, and you and each creature and object within 10 feet of you become invisible for 2d4 minutes. The dust is consumed, and if an invisible creature attacks or casts a spell, the invisibility ends on that creature. So it's a little bit like the invisibility spell in that way. Mm-hmm. So I like this in I feel like your rogue or your trickster, your bard might have this, because it's like, I'm in danger. Or like you have needed to get an object.
Megan.
What?
Your character that runs in front of the rest of the party because you're a fucking monk and ends up face down by the end of most combats.
Yeah, I die every combat.
Might need this to get out.
Yeah. It's a bit of a Hail Mary failsafe, but a Hail Mary in that it won't destroy your whole campaign.
Yeah.
But you need to get up the fuck somewhere to retrieve this item that's really precious, because it also includes creatures and objects within 10 feet of you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, grab the item while, the torrents are coming down upon thee.
Upon
and
us.
poof, and then you turn invisible with the thing and you fucking get out of the way, you get down, and you can peace out, and you can do some sort of magical escape.
What's the radius that you get to throw this up? And
I believe it's within 10 feet or within 5 feet. It's just like a poof. It's a 10-foot radius around you.
I'm not going to do this for allies for sneaking. I'm going to do this for the unconscious body that I don't want to be attacked in combat.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair.
Or for, hey, we got to the vault before our rivals and we can't get out in time. So poof, us and the item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We're out of here.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of it before, to be honest.
Well, there you go.
What happens if you snort it?
We'll let the internet answer that one.
Like your just nose becomes invisible. I would totally mix it into people's like drinks and hand it out, and then everybody becomes invisible. Like that would be another use for it. I would have this.
I'd allow
You can
that if someone
homebrew
had
it.
the forethought to do that.
Anyways, Megan, take us away. Magic table C.
See.
So I have Qual's feather token.
So, sidebar, when I first read that, I thought it was quail. I'm like, oh, a quail feather.
Honestly, they're bullshit fantasy words. Like,
It was a long time after. I'm like, oh, it's not quail
No.
at all.
This is a different kind of bird.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a wondrous rare item. There are 6 different feather tokens with different designs and all do something different. I don't know if I've said the word different enough. So there is the anchor, the bird, the fan, the swan boat, the tree, and the whip.
which one is the most different?
The whip is the most different, weirdly enough. I can say that right away. So the anchor basically stops a large vessel from moving for 24 hours. The bird, when thrown into the air, it turns into basically a bird mount that uses the rock stat block, but does not attack. Only uses for transport only.
Jeez, that's a huge fucking bird.
It's huge.
Yeah,
I think it was
they're literally gargantuan.
Yeah, and I think it can hold up to over 500 pounds. It can hold anything.
So, the entire party could climb on its back
and fly around.
get
Yeah,
out.
unless you have
Okay.
a dragonborn with metal bones. We'll talk about that later, though.
I mean, it happens sometimes.
Sometimes it just happens.
This is like Rescuers Down Under vibe.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah,
That's a bit of a deep cut.
it is. But for those who get it, you get it.
Mm.
The bird, which I just talked about, so I'm going to move on.
We're going to flip the bird and move
We're
on.
going to flip the bird and move on. There's the fan, which basically when you throw the coin up, a giant fan appears and creates wind. So you can use this for the sails of your ships or to just piss someone off. I don't know.
I can see that have been handy in our recent campaign when we're traversing forever.
Yeah.
And we needed to speed the fuck up.
Yeah, let's blow this fucking fan out of the water. There is the swan boat, which is basically if you throw into a large body of water, you get a 50-foot swan boat as a vessel for 24 hours.
This has Mieka written all
over it. Yeah, the princess's boat just appears,
It's like,
Do you get the token
boat.
back at the end of the use for
It's
these?
expended.
Okay.
So then there's the tree, which when you throw it, a giant tree appears. And then the whip. And why I say, and I was able to answer it was different, because this one is the only one that attacks things.
Oh.
So the whip is basically a magical whip appears and floats around, kind of like, what is that weapon? That
Cat of Nine Tails.
What?
What?
How many? Anyways. What do clerics have? That's like a sacred
spiritual weapon.
Spiritual weapon.
Yeah.
So it's basically like that. A magical whip appears, and then you can use this as plus 9 to hit, has a 10-foot reach, and is a 1d6 plus 5 force damage. And then it can be moved and reused as a bonus action.
It's the force damage that's big because you need that. There's not many things that are immune or resistant to it.
Force damage, yeah. And it lasts for an hour.
Oh shit.
So it floats around you?
Yeah, and you can move it up to, I think it's up to 20 feet. You can move it per round, similar to a spiritual weapon, and then you can, as a bonus action, move it and attack in one turn.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat and lasts for an hour. But again, once the coin is expended, it disappears. So this is kind of like that one pop off. But I thought it'd be really cool that you do end up with a bag of coins, and if you dump them out, all of them, they're blank. But if they're in the bag, it's a gamble, and it's random, whichever one you pull out. And if you have one out at a time, it will show you which one it is. Ooh. And then you can either expend it or throw it back in the bag. But I would homebrew this that you can't identify what each one does. Yeah. You just kind of have to guess by what the coin looks like.
And then I'm going to homebrew 7 or 8 other fucking coins to go in it as well.
Like, I was thinking of other animals that you could use, like a coin with a boar that would all of a sudden give you, like, super strength or something like that for a certain couple of rounds.
Yeah.
Or...
Ooh, and like we talked about last episode with, like, the room of requirement scenario, you could potentially be like, okay, I really want to pull this one token. Mm-hmm. And so you could, introduce a roll to add the odds. It might not be guaranteed, but you could add the odds to be pulling the right coin.
I just remembered that I handed out the Quiver of Chance to Jess, which was 100 separate arrows, each with a different effect. You don't know what you're drawing, you've got to roll randomly, and then we cross that off the list.
Uh-huh.
Right?
I remember that.
Yeah, and then when it gets to 0, or you always, if you roll that number, you go down. You get the next one closest to 0. When you get to 0, it blows up and does a fuck ton of damage to you and everything else around. So, however, if you roll all of them without ever getting the 0, then it was like 100 extra hit points as long as you were wearing it. Like, it was nuts.
Oh my god.
So, anyway.
That is fun. Mm-hmm.
I do like the random chance things, although I wouldn't let them put it back. You got to draw it and you're stuck with what you get.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure, fair.
Mine is Heward's Handy Haversack. This is a backpack with one large pouch and 2 smaller side pouches, and each is an extra dimensional space. This is your answer to another kind of bag of holding. Yeah. Each side pouch has an interior volume of 2 cubic feet and can hold up to 20 pounds. The main part of the backpack can hold 8 cubic feet or material and up to 80 pounds. The backpack always weighs 5 pounds. It takes an action to get an item out of it, but the item you're looking for is always the first thing you find. If it's pierced or destroyed, all the contents within are gone forever except artifacts, which randomly end up somewhere else.
Yeah.
It has the same rules as the bag of holding about turning inside out, putting a creature inside it, or placing the haversack into another extra dimensional space. So it's very similar, but it's a little bit better. It doesn't have the sheer amount of space, because that's 64 cubic feet, and this is a total of 12. However, it's just a backpack. This is great for all your adventuring gear, and it only ever weighs 5 pounds.
I feel like if players knew about this item, they would probably care less about the bag holding.
Yeah, I also feel like this is going to be great if you're playing with encumbrance in your campaign.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So people will go after bag of holding. They may not think to loot the backpack that just looks like a backpack. Right? So
that is a regular bedroll or whatever attached to it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam. Well, forever now. I'm like, I am looking at their backpack.
What does their
backpack
look like?
Is there anything unique about the backpack?
They're like, no.
What color is it? Yeah. All right.
Get the fuck out of here, Casey.
Sorry. Okay. So I looked up sending stone. So these come in pairs. Each is a smooth stone carved to match the other. While you touch one stone, you can use an action to cast this sending spell from it. The target is the bearer of the other stone, but if no creature bears the other stone, you know that fact as soon as you use the stone, and it doesn't cast the spell.
Is this thing on?
Yeah. It's basically like, hey, there's no one there.
Yeah.
Like, it's... So I guess it gives you the opportunity to, like, you don't waste anything if you attempt and there's no one there. And that can also give you insight on what the hell's happening on the other end. Mm-hmm. It can only be used once per dawn. And if one of the stone pairs is destroyed, the other one just becomes a non-magical stone. Mm-hmm. So they must come in pairs. We also, I think, saw this in the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I believe that's what he handed out, the sorcerer handed out.
Yeah, we can all talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I think he had like some like side comment. It was like, well, we only get to do this like one time, or like we only get to do this till dawn, or there was some sort of like funny comment
D&D
about it.
Prerequisite of like, we only have this for 6 hours.
Yeah, it was like disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
There's
Before
last
people
exactly
get mad.
10 rounds, 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
So these are kind of fun if nobody has the capability of doing sending and you truly are sending one NPC, or there's somebody really important to your campaign you need to communicate with that you're leaving and you need to get information back to them. Sure, introduce this, see if your players remember that you gave it to them.
Yeah.
And they can communicate with somebody that's like, really far away. Because there's no parameters on where they are. It's just if they have the other stone.
It's not even like they have to be on the same plane of existence or
No,
anything?
there is nothing. It's very basic. It's just if you have the stone and they talk to you and you're holding it.
You can talk to them.
Yeah, you hear it. If you like leave it behind in your house and you go off on an adventure, then they're like, whacking it. It's like, hello.
You don't want to call them while they're whacking it.
No, you don't.
No one.
It's best that no one answers.
Don't answer the stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at high levels you can hand out, like, you could have 7 or 8 of them linked. So that all your players and their NPCs
Everybody
and stuff
gets a stone.
Yeah, that's a
fair.
reasonable one.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got for table D?
Table D. I chose the Bag of Devouring. So this is basically like a bag of holding, except not. Basically, it will
Sounds
eat.
awful.
If you put anything like meat, vegetable, or anything organic inside of it, it will automatically eat it, feeding an extra dimensional, like, other creature. Probably. Probably. But if you happen to shove your hand inside to take anything out of it, there's a 50% chance that you will be eaten and drawn into the bag yourself. It's a DC 15 strength save to escape, and someone outside of the bag can reach in to try and grab you out, and if they do not fall into the bag with you, it is a DC 20 strength save to pull you out of it. If you start your turn inside of the bag, you are devoured and gone forever.
Jesus.
Why? Why is this created?
Things that aren't meat are edible anything that isn't meat or like an inanimate object of some kind doesn't necessarily get devoured. In fact, it will spit the object out once per day. It'll spit an object out in a different plane of existence. Yeah, it's like, this is not edible, but it'll spit it out wherever the fuck it wants to. You can close the mouth by flipping it inside out. Mm-hmm. So if you flip the bag inside out, you have a regular bag. If you destroy it by cutting it up, all the items will be placed into random dimensions, similar to like the bag of holding and things like that. So in my mind, again, this is a great campaign starter. You fight a bunch of orcs, however, like, great, that's awesome. Someone puts their hand inside of this bag, gets eaten by it, and then the reaction is to destroy the bag, and that person is now in another dimension.
Oh my god.
And then your goal is to go and try and find this person. If trying to be like, who created this? Obviously, this is going to be something that is hiding away, or like a very strong, powerful, magical creature hiding away that created a bunch of these, sent them out into the world to be constantly fed so it never has to leave its lair.
I was wondering if it was just a mimic that has looked like a bag of holding for too long.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Can't unchange.
Can't unchange back. Yeah. That's cute.
Like, this is a cruel trick.
Yeah.
Like, like, if you want to hand this out to your players that's just, like, pissing you off, it's like, here, this looks awesome, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Here.
Oh, what's this? It's a bag of holding?
Question mark? Oh, I'm going to put stuff into this. You reach your hand back in there, you get sucked into it.
Yeah.
I would totally have it when you flip it inside out. It's just always dripping blood. Like, it is just a bloody inside of the
Just
bag.
a sack of gross. Yeah.
So for mine, I also have an extra dimensional space, and this is the portable hole. Pause for effect,
Damn
Megan.
it.
Go on.
Picture, if you will, a silken black handkerchief that you can open up to be a 6-foot diameter sheet with a single action. You then place it on or against a solid surface, and it creates a hole 10 feet deep. This is an extra dimensional space, so it can't be used to make passages or to get through walls or anything. It's just you create a hole. Even if you put it up against a big old piece of paper, it creates a 10-foot hole. So you can use your action to fold it up, trapping whatever or whoever is inside it. When it's folded up, it weighs nearly nothing. Don't get too excited about using it as a trap to store hostile creatures though, because it only takes a DC 10 strength save to climb out, which it will do because there's only 10 minutes of breathable air in there.
Fair.
Again, don't combine this with extra dimensional spaces or you're dealing with that astral plane shit again.
Love it.
So if you really want to hide something, you can...
Or you want to steal something.
Yeah.
Or you want to steal something. Okay.
That's fair. I like that. It's a good heist item.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, this would have saved Indiana Jones with that big boulder coming down.
That's fair.
10-foot deep hole. I mean, you'll lose the thing afterwards because the boulder was sticking out of it, but
Saves your life.
saved your life. Like, that. There's a lot of cool, interesting ways to... I could play with this. This would be fun.
That's pretty cool.
player.
I like it a lot.
So,
Yeah.
and there's not too many shenanigans that I can get up to that's going to break a campaign.
No.
Yeah.
Just good fun.
And something that players, it's like, oh, you find in their pocket a giant folded black sheet.
Mhm.
It's like, thrilling. Okay. Do they take
Not
it?
even
Do
a
they
black
not?
handkerchief.
A black handkerchief. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like...
Inside is a
It's
dead
like
orc.
it's very much a magician, like, flourish kind of item,
Yeah.
right?
And depending on who gives a shit, might find out how awesome it actually is.
I love the idea that they open it up and inside is just a hog-tied dead orc. Like they couldn't climb out.
Yeah.
Like, whoops.
Like, whoa.
Didn't mean to leave that there.
So I recently actually acquired this item in my campaign. Nalzir's Marvelous Pigments.
Oh, yeah.
I have yet to use them.
Cute.
Moments I have tried to use them and then, things happen. So this is up to 4 pots of pigment in a wooden box with a brush. These pigments allow you to create 3-dimensional objects by painting them in 2 dimensions. The paint flows from the brush while you concentrate on the image you want, creating the object on a surface. There is a large volume here, so you'll need to track it. Each pot can cover 1,000 square feet of surface.
Holy shit.
I think I rolled 4 as well on this. I had so much. So this lets you create inanimate objects or terrain features like doors, holes, trees, weapons, with a limit of 10,000 cubic feet.
This is fucking Wile E. Coyote drawing shit on the wall and then it's... Okay.
Makes manifest
Absolutely.
a thing.
This
Yeah.
is the hole in the wall.
Cool.
It will take 10 minutes per 100 square feet that you draw. As soon as you complete the object, it becomes the real object and is non-magical. These are non-magical objects. They can have a value up to objects can have a value no greater than 25 gold pieces. If you try to create objects that are more than 25 gold pieces, the item will not be what you expect. So if you try to paint a diamond, it will create a diamond, but then you'll realize it's made of clay.
Yeah, it's like a resin diamond or something
it's
stupid.
So you can't find loopholes in this. If you try to paint energy, like a fire, it will appear for a moment and then dissipate without causing any effect. So this is just non-magical objects that
Can I do people?
It doesn't say you can't.
I could paint a dragon.
I would as a DM though would yes, you paint a dragon, but it comes out as a cardboard cutout.
Because I
feel
you get a corpse.
But
There's just no life. You can't create life.
Yeah.
because it does have to have I feel like a real dragon would have a value greater than 25 gold pieces.
Well, if you ask the dragon, he will.
Mhm.
Ask his
Yes.
ex-wife and no.
But yeah, the way I kind of see this is you're making an artistic version of something. It's kind of like the Ditto of Pokemon, where it just makes a copy of something, but it's not the original.
Yeah, and I feel like, honestly, this is inherently flawed because, well, let's ask the artist. Are you ever truly done painting it?
No.
So when you're done, it comes to life. I'm like, yeah, sure, fuck, that'll never happen.
It'll never come to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your perspective correct on it? Did you...
I don't want to talk about it.
Yes. So I know the moment I was going to use these, then it was when I was trapped. I went through a trap door and then the door disappeared.
Mm.
And so I was stuck in a place that the oxygen was going to run out.
Mm-hmm.
So my tactic after, trying a couple other things was I was going to paint myself a new door. And so that's kind of where I was going to use some of this stuff to get out.
It's really
Then,
cute.
other things happened and I didn't need to. Yeah. But I like it. I think it's fun.
Very creative.
What 4 colors do you pick?
pick jewel tones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maggie, what 4 colors do you pick?
Yellow, cyan, magenta,
Of course.
And black.
and white, actually.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
choose black, because you can make black out
Yeah,
of
I
the
know.
colors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're welcome.
4 different shades of blue.
Yeah. 50 Shades of Grey. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, magic item table E.
Yep. My least favorite fucking table. Go nuts.
I have the Arrow of Slaying. So, I have actually been gifted one of these in one of our campaigns before.
Slay.
So,
Really?
this is a very rare weapon that is specific to... It's basically designed to be used to kill or damage a specific creature or creature type. For example, a dragon slaying arrow, it would have an effect on, so on and so forth. So should you damage a creature with this arrow that of its choosing, so let's say it's a dragon slaying arrow, and you shoot a dragon with it, they must make a DC 17 con save or take an extra 6d10 piercing damage, or half on the save. So I was given a Arrow of Slaying Gods, I think,
Oh, yeah.
in your campaign.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I'm remembering it now. I'm like, wow, Adam, you done fucked that up.
Yeah.
Did you use it?
I did.
Was that at
during
the very end?
at the very, very end I used
When
it.
all the gods were having that brawl at
Yes.
the top of the tower?
I used it to try and save my god from being attacked by another god. I used it against them. I didn't have a bow, so I threw it. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember.
I threw it like a javelin.
I did hit.
Yeah.
I made a stupid high roll and you hit it.
Yeah. So, and again, that's how I would use it. This would be if you are hunting a very specific creature or a very specific big bad evil guy, this is kind of like your last little MacGuffin gift from maybe a boon from your god or a boon from your Patreon or something like that, right?
Yeah.
The way that I always picture in my head, because it's so much more piercing damage, is when it's in mid-flight, right before it hits, it can sense, it's got like an aura, wherever it can sense it,
Yeah.
and it just becomes like a ballista bolt, so it just grows 30 times its size and then fucking hits them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I love it.
I'm gonna hold my action, because mine directly relates to yours, Casey.
All right. So, Sovereign Glue. Again. This is a viscous, milky white substance that can form a permanent adhesive bond between two objects. Adam, why did you give this one to me? Why?
Because I thought Megan was DM2 or DM3, so I'm kidding.
Anyways, it must be stored in a jar or flask that has been coated inside with oil of slipperiness, which I know is part of another magic table. When found, it will have 1d6 plus 1 ounces in it, and 1 ounce can cover 1 square foot of surface, and it takes 1 minute to set. So this is something that you need, it's a process, not that long a process though, less than,
That's too bad.
a ritual. Yeah, 1 minute, We're asking for a lot if it's 3. So,
It's not wrong.
That's so bad.
So once it has set, the bond can only be broken by applying the universal solvent or oil of etherealness or with a wish spell. This is a solid bond.
Yeah.
Love it. It's hilarious. Lots of very fun uses, though. All jokes aside, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm totally going to glue the rogue to the floor.
Done with your shit.
Yeah.
No, great, cool.
I have the flip side of it. I have the universal solvent. This is a vial of milky liquid that smells like alcohol.
Nice.
With an action, not pineapple. With an action, you can dissolve 1 square foot of any adhesive, including sovereign glue.
Mm.
The reason that I wanted to have two of these two together, pointed out, is because they need to be handed out together. Or you find one in one part of the dungeon and the other in the other part of the dungeon.
Yeah.
Or you have the quest to get one to undo the other. Or
yeah, because
something
let's say you
like
use the adhesive by accident. You're like, shit, we need that item. Okay, well, let's go find the solvent for it. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, or there's a door to a tomb, and you need to get into the tomb to get the item, but there's no way through. It's magically warded. So someone has used sovereign glue to keep it closed, so now you need to go get the solvent, right? So
Yeah.
Something like that. There's options here,
Yeah.
and I think most people skip right past it.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, it does give you a little bit more magic item use versus just, like, it's magically sealed.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not actually magically sealed. It's fucking glue.
Yeah.
So you have to just figure out how to, like, dissolve the glue.
Yeah, it's just glue.
Yeah.
All right, magic table F. I have the Brooch of Shielding is what I chose. This is a wondrous uncommon item that will require attunement. This allows the wearer to have resistance to force damage and immunity to magic missile.
Goddamn magic missile.
Yep.
Yep. I read that immediately and I was like, you know what? This is a very simple item, but how fucking useful would that be?
Mm-hmm.
Just that and shield, right? That's how you get past. Or is it mage armor? Which one gives you the immunity? Magic missile.
I think shield does it not? Or
Well,
is it...
shield only just boosts
It's
your
your
AC.
AC.
That's
You're
what,
right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So it is, I think, mage armor.
I'm looking it up because I never cast spells.
Yeah. But no, it's very, like, again, the Brooch of Shielding, very simple. It's not an actual shield. I feel like this could be, like, on your paladin or what have you that's just wearing, like, a little symbol of their god or their
Yes.
clergy or what have you.
Zenti had one of these.
Okay.
Because, yes, so she had one, and then when she died, it was awful, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I think you have it. You might have
Someone
has
has
it
it.
now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to check
Well,
my inventory sheet.
it's probably you or Orbo has it and is wearing it.
I am wearing
And
a
it's
coin.
Sorry,
of
it's
hers.
shield. It's not mage armor.
It's
It is
shield.
It is
Does it?
shield?
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna have to look because I have your coin of your god that I carry with me,
And the snow globe.
and then I was given
My shield.
your shield, which I broke down into brass knuckles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had a brooch that gave me magic missile.
I'll have to look.
Yeah.
Mine is the Hat of Disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Again, attunement. I think we're up to the point where everything's going to start. Like, Casey, all your stuff attunement too?
Yeah.
Yeah, move
Mhm.
forward?
Yeah.
All right, so
Like after this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
while you're wearing the Hat of Disguise, you can cast Disguise Self on yourself as an action. And there's no limit on how many times you can cast it.
Nice.
The spell ends if the hat is removed. But it's still the spell, so it lasts an hour. So at 55 minutes, your alarm needs to go off on your watch. You're like, okay, I got to duck behind the tree, recast this so that I can keep
Yeah.
the
Keep
disguise
going.
on. But
Yeah.
Hat of Disguise.
Just a cute, fun thing to have.
This, I think, if you're doing espionage, if you're trying to
Heisty
sneak in,
shit. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you need to get into a prison and someone needs to be a guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm gonna, kill that guy, steal his clothes. No, I'm just gonna look like a new guard, right?
Yeah.
Or the captain.
Yeah, I'm Kevin. I'm showing up for my first day. Thanks. Yeah.
Totally. And I think in other episodes we were talking about, like, if you're trying to infiltrate nobility and, you get an invite to a noble party.
Mhm.
It's like, there you go.
Perfect.
You got your noble garb and you're
Yeah.
strolling in.
Yeah.
I just want it to be the ugliest hat ever when it's knocked off your head. Because while you're disguised, it looks like you're not even wearing a hat, right?
Mhm.
But it has got to be the most god-awful.
It's a fedora.
It's a hot pink fedora
Yeah.
with
With
like a
like
lime green feather.
Yeah, a giant plume that,
Yeah.
it bounces
I
when you
hate it.
walk.
Yeah, and you call it macaroni.
Nice.
All right, I chose Ring of Warmth. There are so many rings. But this one,
And as I learned, you can put them on anything.
you can put them on anything.
Yeah, rings can go on anything.
While wearing this ring, which requires attunement, you will have resistance to cold damage, and everything you wear and carry are unharmed by temperatures as low as -50 Fahrenheit. So, seemingly doesn't seem that big of deal, but depending on your campaign, this could come in, like, really handy, especially if you are one of the squishy, like, characters. If you're going in and you're fighting dragons or you're going into the tundra, this could be the game-changing thing to you surviving some sort of area effect.
Yeah.
So, don't dismiss, like, rings coming up.
Yeah. I
There's
feel like
many.
in most of my campaigns, we don't come across a lot of rings.
I'm scared of rings because, if I can be honest, most video games I've played in previous editions of D&D, I don't hand them out because the rings are always the most powerful fucking item
It's
in the game.
true. Yeah.
And so I just inherently look at the list of rings and go, nah.
Never mind. Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
You're not wrong.
think Yeah, we are in the territory of many a ring coming up in the list.
Yeah.
Like this one it's a D100 for table. We are in table F. Yeah. There's 4 ring options, and they even get more as we move up.
Yeah. Very much so.
Because they're powerful.
All right, speaking of the next table, table G. I did not choose a ring. I chose the dimensional shackles.
Okay, so...
Peek behind the curtain, as Dan would say.
So as I'm sitting there doing my final, like, making sure that there's no surprises in the breakdown, I wrote too long ago. I go and I check on it 2 hours before you guys are supposed to show up, and I see Megan prepping and writing in all of the, like, this is what I chose, this is what I chose, this is what I chose. And I just happened to glance as she was typing in dimensional shackles into it. And so I immediately, the moment she stopped typing, I hit the same line and went, we don't kink shame. And then without missing a fucking beat, Megan's like, thank you.
So in the original show notes, there's that little sentence beside dimensional shackles.
Cute.
Yeah, so... Thank you, Google Docs, for making that happen.
Live editing. So these are a wondrous rare item. They do not technically require attunement because these can be slapped onto any unconscious creature.
Hey, now.
They adjust to their size, so no matter if they are a small or large creature, it will adjust accordingly.
That's nice.
This stops them from any kind of... I'm trying to do this seriously, guys. Can we just...
Yeah.
Just wait till we get to mine.
That's fair.
Oh, fuck.
I love this so much. All right, so this stops them from doing interdimensional travel via magical means. They can, of course, pass through a physical portal of some kind, but they can't use things like Misty Step or, like, you know, Dimension Door and things like that. They can't do spells or magic that cause them to travel through planes. Only the person who put the shackles on plus one other designated person can remove them. I love that there's a failsafe.
Yeah.
There's a safe word.
We always need a safe word.
But the wearer can make a DC 30 strength save to try and break them once per month.
Good.
Like, how entertaining and interesting would this be? But again, this, like, all seriousness, I think this would be a really good item to give someone if you are playing, like, we're magistrates, or we're police officers, or we're investigating a crime, or doing a whodunit. This would be a good way to kind of stop the wizard from bamfing in and out of existence, or what have you, right? Like, it depends on what you are hunting and who you are trying to track down. This would be a neat little item to give, one that they might forget that they have, but would come in very handy if they remember they have it.
On the other flip side of things, I can help you. I can open up the portal. I'm the only one in the entire kingdom that can open the dimension door to get us through. But both of the people that put these on are dead. Mm-hmm. How are we going to get them off?
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yep. So, mine is a series of things. It's Ioun stones. These require attunement. I call them Ioun. These are a made-up word. You can pronounce it. I know a lot of people say Ioun. It doesn't matter. Bullshit fantasy.
Yawn.
So, Ioun. Ioun was a god of knowledge and prophecy, and these stones are named after him for reasons not made clear in 5th edition. So, we don't know why.
You sound better.
Yeah. Maybe these things should be included in the Dungeon Master's Guide, you dumb fucks. These stones come in a variety of shapes and colors and the precious stone themselves. So some will be rubies or amethysts or whatever. And there are 14 options of different effects and rarities in the DMG, but this isn't the complete list. And I've seen it in previous editions, so feel free to homebrew your own. There are dozens of different kinds. They look like gems. They're always beneficial, and once you attune to one, it floats around your head in a 1d3 foot radius, and that can change. While it's floating like this, it's considered to be worn, and there are rules for others to take it from you as well. It has an AC of 24, it can be grabbed by someone else with a DC 24 acrobatics check, and it has only 10 hit points. I hate that. It should be a sleight of hand check.
Yeah, that sounds right for sleight of hand, yeah.
The good news is that it's resistant to all damage types, so those 10 hit points are really 20, and you can just grab it and stow it with an action, as long as you're the one attuned to it.
Yeah.
Some of the effects are things like adding 2 to an ability score, adding 1 to your proficiency modifier or your AC, countering some spells, making it so you don't need to eat or drink, or letting you regain 15 hit points at the end of each hour. So there are various different rarities. They're all a little bit different, and I think it's so cool to just be walking around with a little like orbit around your head. I also like the idea that it takes an acrobatics check to catch it. So I think that these things are not sentient necessarily, but aware of their surroundings. When someone else reaches for them, they juke and move and shift out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? But they let you grab them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cute.
We haven't seen these as much in the current campaign, but
You had a couple in the last one.
Like Accra had at least one.
I take attunement off of them because I like handing them out at high levels.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I fill in gaps.
Yeah,
So,
they were fun. I liked it.
Yeah.
the one that I gave you, I think, allowed you to store a spell in it and cast out of it once a day.
Yeah, that could be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
just like an
Familiar.
add-on.
Yeah.
It's just I wanted you to have an extra, I think it was 6-level spell slot. Just felt right for what we were doing. So
Yeah, because we were going lengths of time before rests at that point. So
Yeah.
people with spell slots were struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
remember
so
that.
I really like Iron Stones. I think they're really flavorful. They're neat. And I would like to see more of them.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
And it's a way to fill in gaps where, like, when there's no paladin or there's no cleric,
Yeah.
you could potentially give an Ioun Stone that gives some sort of benefit ability for healing or
yeah.
it has an aura kind of thing where
I like doing
I
it
don't know.
where it gives you max on one of the numbers, so you don't have to roll. You cast any healing magic, it's maximum number
Yeah.
or something like that. Or there's an aura that if someone stands within 5 feet of you for a minute, they get this benefit,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So
Yeah.
Iron Stones are just absolutely phenomenal.
Versatile.
Sky's the limit. Yeah.
Very much so.
Totally. So I chose Tentacle Rod.
I'm out.
Go
Come
on.
on! This requires attunement and is made by the Drow. The Tentacle Rod is a magic weapon that has 3 magical tentacles on the end. So think like
Oh,
they,
we're picturing it. Yeah.
they
you're
move
good.
around.
Yeah.
They are not
Do
like
they
solid.
have like a pulse setting or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they can move in different motions. And you can use an action to direct each tentacle to attack a creature you can see within 15 feet of you. The attack has a +9 bonus and will deal 1d6 bludgeoning damage on a hit. If you hit one target with all 3 tentacles,
Well, now that's just a good evening.
Tell me more.
they must make a DC 15 con save, or the creature's speed is halved. It has disadvantage on dex saves and can't use reactions for 1 minute. Additionally, on each of its turns, it can either take an action or a bonus action, but not both.
It's busy smoking a cigarette.
I mean, if you're taking 3, that sounds about right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You just need
I mean-
a minute to catch your breath.
You need,
Yeah.
you need a hot second.
This is what
Let
I'm
me
here
recoup.
for. So, the target can repeat the save at the end of each of its turns, which will end the effect on a success.
I choose to fail.
Suddenly, grappling is back on the table.
With the right items, always.
Hold on, let me get my whip token out. We're gonna make this fun.
Yes, whip token. That's a lot of force damage. 1d6 plus 5 force damage? Are you kidding? Bring it on.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Have high con at this point. So I love this in that, sure, if you don't have stellar melee attack, this gives you it and a 15-foot reach. Come on.
Amazing. Yeah.
So
Out of
good.
town. Hilarious. Magic item table H. So I chose the 9 live stealer. This is basically a sword, or technically any other weapon you can kind of like add this ability to. So it can be, doesn't have to be a sword, it can be a mace, it can be whatever. But basically this is a very rare item that of course requires attunement. It is a +2 bonus to attack, and is considered magical, but the actual neat part is that it has a 1d8 +1 charges, and if you score a critical hit with this weapon, the creature has the creature has fewer than 100 hit points. They must make a DC 15 con save or instantly die, and the weapon loses 1 charge.
That is power word kill.
Yes,
in a weapon.
In a weapon. which I thought was amazing. Like, this would not work in an undead campaign, even though, like, Casey and I, we used to talk about undead, because undead and things that are already dead are immune to this. Correct, obviously. But I feel like this would be really, really cool to give your, like, revenge paladin or your fallen paladin. This would be a really cool, like, judgment tool.
Your Oathbreaker. Or, actually, there are all sorts of paladins that are, like, Oath of Conquest and shit.
Yeah, and then just the judgment piece to it, I think, it would be really flavorful. It'd be like when you hit with a crit, you could pass judgment on something, right?
Yeah.
And then it just sends them. So I thought that was very flavorful to give your more majestic creature character. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will never hand this out.
No, it's a lot.
This ends my boss battle at the end of the campaign.
In like one round. Yeah. 100%. This would be the sword that I would give the big bad evil guy at the end.
Like, they would have this sword.
Yeah, they would have this sword. And then you would see them wielding it, like, instant killing things around you. Like, I would give your players the warning that this is a deadly thing to be hit with. And then, or give them the history behind it and the fact that what you're going against has this very specific weapon. But you don't know how many charges it has, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't recharge at all? Like,
nope.
Okay.
Once it's out of charges, it dies and becomes a regular mundane item.
So I am going to hand this out. It's going to have 3 charges left on it. You're going to get a level 15 for a 20th level campaign.
Yeah, and then that's all
And then I'm going to fucking make you have to... I need to use this now.
Before we get to a certain point. But at least you had some fun with it, right? So, it's neat.
Mine is, well, you went weapon, I went armor. So demon armor. Again, this requires attunement. This is plate mail that's covered in spikes with massive claws coming out of the gauntlets just above the wrist. +1 to AC, you understand and speak Abyssal, and unarmed strikes are magical, they deal slashing damage, and they get a +1 to attack and damage rolls. Damage is also a D8 now for punching.
Nice.
It's also cursed. So,
fair.
Yeah. You can't take the armor off without a remove curse spell. This sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
Wow.
I handed this out to Titus. It is infernal
the
armor.
red armor.
Yeah. Got you.
You have disadvantage on attack rolls against demons and on any save that a demon makes you roll, which is lots. So, you're going to accept this early in the campaign, and then I got bad news for you. We're going to the abyss.
Here we go.
Yeah. It is one of those things where you have it, like, there is consequence. But it's kind of like, well, it's fine.
I made Titus have to wear it, but he only had to wear a part of it at any given time. Like, he was able to take most of it off, because if you can't take it off, you can't get the benefits of a long rest. Like, you can't sleep in armor.
Yeah.
Right.
This kills you within a week. You're fucked.
Yeah. There needs to be a loophole.
Yeah. We're talking exhaustion now. So you put this on, it's real good, and then you get out of the dungeon and you realize, oh, fuck.
I'm so sleepy.
Now we have to go visit the hag.
Yeah. I guess we'll go visit the hags then. Cool. That's really cool.
All right. Staff of Striking requires attunement. This staff grants a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls when you make a quarterstaff melee attack with it. If you hit on an attack, you can expend up to 3 charges to deal an extra 1d6 force damage per charge used. So that can be up to 3d6 force damage. The staff can regain 1d5 + 4 charges daily at dawn. If you use the last charge, you must roll a d20. On a 1, the staff becomes non-magical. So, requires your players to keep fucking track if they really care about this item, because it could go horribly wrong and disappear. So it does have those limits, but it's the one of the regaining charges options. We haven't really covered many of those yet.
Yeah.
Where it's like a roll to recharge.
That's fair. I feel like this is your monk's master's weapon. Right? And like, if you ever, like, in a training scenario between, like, your monk or your fighter, this is what the master is going to have. And if you are getting anywhere close to beating them, they will then just be like, okay, well, with the...
I'm sorry, they do what? That's what I thought you said.
Yeah.
Yes, or you are under a bunch of trials. And if you pass the trials, this is your gift.
Your reward.
Yes. And so you have the ability to cause enough bludgeoning damage as a monk to do additional force damage.
Yeah.
So it's that extra thing.
I would use this. I mean, Megan, you just did a tournament and ended up getting some additional martial arts moves for your monk.
Yeah, man.
This would be what I hand out to second place.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Very cool. So for then the last table I chose the Belt of Giant Strength. Obviously, I had to choose a giant weapon of some kind.
I knew you were gonna pick that.
Yeah, of course, obviously. So this is, of course, a wondrous item. The rarity varies, of course, based on whatever giant you choose to have imbued it with power, and of course requires attunement. So wearing this belt will change your strength score, so that based on the type of giant that you choose. So there is a table in the DMG that showcases this, where, let's say, for example, the Hill Giant, the less strong one, it bumps your strength up to 21 and is considered a rare item. But the Storm Giant belt, which is the top of the ordning, would be a strength of 29 and is considered legendary.
Cool.
Yeah.
So again, you can kind of customize it to where and what tier your players are at and who is going to end up having this belt and who it would be useful to. I don't think it necessarily breaks the game entirely, depending on what level you're at, and you just have to be responsible with what tier you're wearing it at. Or to our point that we've talked about, as a DM, you can give it an expenditure. Let's say, yes, you're attuned to it, but it only lasts a year, and then it's gone, or something along those lines.
Or it's once per day for a minute.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that.
You you strap on your belt and you go, I don't know. How do you turn a belt on? I love ruining
Belt
Adam's
on,
life.
Adam,
Belt,
not
yeah.
strap on.
Oh, okay.
Belt on.
All right. I will say this. My inspiration for this is you can go lower with it because there will be some players that never, ever, ever have high strength,
Yeah.
like a wizard. So instead of Hill Giant, you could go Cyclops, and that's a 19.
Yeah.
You could go Etin, that's a 17. Ogre is a 15, right?
Yep.
So
You can go further.
useless for the Barbarian, great for the Warlock, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
There was a version of this in a series that I watched. You guys are going to have to help me. It was a series about magical keys in a mansion.
Oh, House of...
Key and Lock? No.
Lock and Key.
Lock and
and
Key.
There
Yes.
it is. Yeah.
They
the comic
had,
book. Yeah.
Yes. So they found a belt, and when you turned the key in the belt, they got, it was like imbued strength. Because
Okay.
then they could combat and battle with high strength. So it was like that, and then the key was what triggered it. But I was reminded of that.
See,
That's cool.
I always hated that it's a belt. I always wanted it to be bracers or an armband or something strength related. And then I remembered wrestling and boxing.
Yeah.
And then it made sense. So in my head, these always look like championship belts. that
Yeah,
you're
like
wearing.
it's got a big
Yeah.
buckle on the
Yeah.
front. Yeah.
It's obvious. Yeah.
So mine is the very famous Vorpal sword,
Yeah.
which requires attunement. This can be any sword that does slashing damage. So you can apply it to any sort of specifically sword. You guys know what it's from, right? It's the Alice in Wonderland sword. This is what kills the Jabberwock.
Yepper.
So it's a +3 to hit, and on damage rolls, you get a +3 as well. This ignores resistance to slashing damage, which is weird and redundant because it's a magic item. It already ignores slashing damage. But I guess it ignores it resistant to magical slashing damage, but doesn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird. It was worded strangely. So here's the fun part. If you roll a 20 on an attack, you cut one of the heads off of the target. This usually results in an auto kill for most creatures, except things like a Cerberus, an Etin, a Chimera, an Amphisbaena, some dire trolls, a Hydra. There's actually fucking a lot of monsters with more than one head out there. But yeah, if they need it to live, it kills them. Creatures are immune if they're immune to slashing damage. So not just resistant, but immune. They don't have or need a head, like an awakened tree or an ooze. The creature has legendary actions, so this is the failsafe that it doesn't work on bosses.
Yeah.
Which I think the other one should have when you were talking about the 9 lives stealer.
Yeah. Have a little bit of a failsafe in place, yeah.
Yeah. Or if the DM just decides that your creature is just too fucking big for you to cut through its neck, like an Astral Dreadnought or the Trask. Instead, they just take 6d8 slashing damage. But it doesn't say this, but it says creatures are immune to the effects if they're immune to slashing damage, so instead they would take 6d8 slashing damage, which which makes no fucking sense. So if they're immune to slashing damage, they're immune. Like this, your Vorpal Sword is not going to work. Hard stop. So I think this is really interesting. We get a Jabberwock stat block in Wild and the Witchlight.
Yeah.
You have to put the Vorpal Sword in there, right? Like, that's the thing, right?
Yeah, it's the connection. I would say, like, the first time I ever heard the term Vorpal Sword was when I played they made an Alice in Wonderland game. It was American McGee, I think was the guy that made it.
Is this a really dark gothic one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dressed up like her for Halloween once many, many years ago. It came out a long, long time ago. That was my first introduction to what a Vorpal Sword was. And then when I played D&D many, many years later in my lifetime, when I was less of a children's, someone said, oh, there's a Vorpal Sword. I'm like, I'm sorry, are we playing Alice in Wonderland? Like, that was the first, like, connection that I made. Anyways, I just think it's a good...
It's in some Final Fantasies.
Yeah, Vorpal Swords exist.
In all sorts of media, yeah. Because it's public domain, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly, right. So, versatile weapon.
All right, to finish things off, I have the Scarab of Protection. Requires attunement. This gave me vibes. Let's see if you have the same vibes.
Throw it down.
This is a beetle-shaped medallion.
Keep going.
If you hold it for 1 round, an inscription appears on its surface, revealing its magical nature. It gives you 2 benefits. Advantage on saving throws against spells, and if you fail a save against a necromancy spell or harmful effect caused by undead creatures, you can use your reaction to expend 1 charge and succeed instead. It's like giving yourself legendary actions kind of thing. And it has 12 charges.
It's giving the Mummy.
Yes!
You know when you said scarab. And then it occurred to me, as I was thinking, because all the scarabs, they like burrow into the guy's leg and they go up his body and all that stuff. So I'm thinking that first. It didn't occur to me that guy dies. He dies screaming. And nobody goes to look for him. Nobody acknowledges the fact that he is no longer there with the rest of them for the rest of the movie. They just they all walked into this temple together, and then there was a curse that hit everybody, and they all walked the fuck out.
Yeah.
And that guy didn't, and no one was like, hey, where's the dude that was on the camel?
True, very true.
I just realized.
There's a whole other series you can watch and read about that somewhere, probably. There's somebody wrote a fanfic about that somewhere, I promise.
Yeah, this is pretty fucking powerful, especially if you're in an undead campaign.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So when it uses up all of the 12 charges, it does crumble into powder and is destroyed. So it...
Bullshit. It turns into a scarab. Now you gotta fight the scarab.
Yay!
Scarab monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was super cute and fun because it could just be like... So I imagine you encounter this where you come across really powerful, potentially royalty or some leader, and like it's on, like you encounter them on their throne and they have it.
It's
like,
their brooch.
Yeah, it's
wearing.
like their brooch
or on their tiara or something. Yeah,
it's on them, and you don't realize like what it can do, but it.
Yeah,
like,
and you as a DM can control how many charges it has left when they pick it up, right? So it doesn't have to be a game-breaking 12-charge item they pick up right away, right?
I also want to see it get used before the players get their hands on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you would see the big bad evil guy using it on someone, or like what have you, and yeah, anyway, I think it's really cool. That's neat.
So, we've run out of tables from the Dungeon Master's Guide, so let's conjure up a brief info break.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram or on our subreddit r/itsAmimik. Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes, and comments. Engagements like that help us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
So, any final thoughts or inspirations about magic items? There's so many.
There's so many. We scratched the surface. We could do another 4 episodes like this and still have more to do.
Yeah.
100%.
And you could spend days trying to prep potential magic items to add to your campaign or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so much.
Take inspiration from your players, I think. Like, and we talked about in the last episode about how, Adam, you provide us a shopping list based on our characters, like what we would get. Yeah. I think that us as DMs, it's good to kind of assess when you start getting into tier 3 and tier 4, you can really start to feel what's missing in in your group and your
Yeah.
players and what they're struggling with, right? And so that's what I would take inspiration for when trying to find items that are going to help them move through the next period in the new space that you're going to be putting them in the game. Like, to our point earlier, we had a wizard that, like, kept dying, so we gave her a small item that gave her AC without stopping her for the ability to use her spells, right? So she didn't have to choose between one or the other, it just gave her kind of a little bit of a boon to keep going. Like, there's just things that we can do as DMs to help our players, and small magical items and being able to control them a little bit so they don't get out of hand is one way to do that.
One of the things we've really focused on is items that affect exploration.
Yeah.
Right? And how we move through the world and interact with the world outside of combat and outside of role-playing. The exploration pillar is boring. There's a lot of information out there for it, and there is stuff to do. We've done lots of episodes about environments and settings and whatnot, and traps and all sorts of things. We can make it more interesting, but one of the ways to do that is with magic items, right? Like, if you have you just need a large cavern with a ledge that's 350 feet up, and it's wet, it's slippery, you can't climb up. I can have a magic item do that. The immovable rod, I can hand out 5 immovable rods, right? We can start making a ladder, and everybody starts climbing up. Like, we can think outside the box of this, and this is going to help the exploration tier.
Yeah,
very true.
And that doesn't imbalance the game.
No.
That's just providing potential solutions to problems.
Yeah, because they're going to creatively have to figure out what that use is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's fun when they figure that stuff out. Like, as players, we enjoy when we figure something out or use an item that we didn't think we could use in a very different way than it's intended, gets us to the next step.
Yeah.
And, like, again, us as DMs kind of sometimes have to allow that to happen. Like, again, like, our players are the ones telling the story. So allow them to. If they're going to use a special weird item, like the rod, the unmoving rod or whatever it is, they use that to wedge a door open. It's like, yeah, you're probably going to lose that, but you might have saved a life.
Yeah.
Not necessarily its intended use, but you used it well in this moment, right?
Yep.
So
embrace it.
Yeah.
There will always be more magic items to hand out later.
Oh, absolutely. Anyway, that's all for the second part of our discussion on magic items in D&D 5th edition. Please take a second to engage with a like, follow, comment, and review to help push our engagement. And don't forget to subscribe to find future inspirations for your campaigns.
If you'd like to support us, we have a store with some merch and a donate button on our website, itsamimic.com, as well as a Patreon. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits. And don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
Boom.
But I can promise it's not going to be as dirty on the next episode because it's me, you, and Tyler. That poor bastard has no idea what he's in for.
I'm just going to be laughing in the background.
Megan's attention again. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
That was a Christmas gift from the Aiko.
Excuse me. Oh, that was a good one.
It's on there.
I just specifically burped and then looked to see if it was the microphone was on. You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, I need to find
Full
my notes
disclaimer.
again.
Also, I thought I had a cold open because I thought I was you.
Also,
And thankfully, I did not come up with one before I realized I was not DM2 today.
Fair enough.
I am also intimidated by this episode. This episode is brought to you by Casey's Intimidation.
You're fine.
Yeah, Casey, you're just fine.
Well, I've had enough booze now that my fucks are a little bit emptier than that.
My fucks are emptier than the jar filled with fucks.
Yeah.
That jar, by the way, came with this long note that was essentially, it was very well worded, but it was essentially, there's a finite number of fucks a person can give. This is a reminder of that. Mm-hmm. Hand them out sparingly. Who's running this shit show?
I also need to remember... You are.
Oh,
I also
fuck.
need to remember I'm DM3 in this one.
Megan, do you have a cold open?
Let me see. Let me look at my notes here. And I would like to remember how you said the other day that like Megan's the only one who doesn't do notes. I would like to point out that I do.
No, you don't. You're the only one that doesn't do notes in the.
That's fair. I do make my own documents so
Yeah.
that nobody can see the shit that I type.
Yes. And I used to do that, and then I stopped.
Every episode that you were like, well, clearly all the Giants episodes, but like. Casey's notes. I scroll for 9 fucking pages because all of the show notes and stuff are at the very end of the document for me to put onto the posted episode, and I just scroll for days.
Yeah.
And
all the Giants episodes, I was in it for all to see.
All right,
Now I
just
don't.
open this and I'll do my cold open.
You lied.
I did not lie. I have a cold open.
Okay. You opened it, they'll just looked at me.
Adam, it's your turn. I'm kidding.
That was the cold open.
That was the cold open. It was just me opening my beer. I don't.
That's so ugly.